What's up, guys, and welcome back for the very first solo mining episode of 2024. I did take a little bit of a break from Eve around the holiday season. The last thing I really did in New Eden was kind of playing around with the winter event and did some of those ice sites and things like that. But really just was trying to try to figure out where I wanted to go with Eve for the most part in this new year. Not a lot has happened over the course of my short little hiatus. There's been a few patches. One patch that adjusted some DED sites and things on the high sec side. But other than that, nothing. Not a lot has changed as far as my kind of emplacements, I guess you could say. I still got one tune out in nullsec, which is about to finish in probably like 3 weeks now. Finish researching the capital core temp regulator blueprint. It's taken a long time to research that stuff, and I wanted to. One of the big goals at the end of last year was to get into more manufacturing and stuff like that. But for the most part, like the amount of time it takes to just fully research these BPOs and stuff like that, really just kind of bored me to tears for the most part. Most of what I enjoy in nullsec actually is just, PI, but there's been a lot of, kind of political shift in the nullsec areas more recently, and I've done so much. I've lived in nullsec, not consecutively, but for the most part, for the better half of like 3 years. So doing like ratting and stuff out there it had gotten a really kind of been there, done that kind of feel to everything. So a lot of what that tune had done in nullsec was just kind of PI research. I don't know if I'm going to be restarting any sort of research or BPOs out there. With all the political shifts going on, everybody is kind of just self-sustained out there. I didn't have a whole lot of luck with just kind of like producing and selling stuff to people that lived locally there, because everybody's just kind of not really buying for the most part. So and also just prices and stuff for like moving stuff in and out of null got a little expensive for the most part. And obviously I could facilitate my own export with jump rares and stuff, but that's kind of beyond the scope of the involvement I want to have in nullsec right now. So I am still planning on doing quite a bit of high sec mining, just because it is still probably one of the most chillest kind of things that I like to do for the most part. That hasn't really changed. So I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I want to do in terms of EVE Online for this year. I think that last year we accomplished quite a bit. And I want to just kind of give a shout out to everybody on the channel for kind of like following the journey and everything. One of the big things last year was the introduction of this series, the solo mining series. So we'll be approaching a year anniversary on this series here in a few weeks or so. And I really the biggest success actually was the solo mining series, and I want to kind of just keep that going for the most part, because I think that is an interesting topic, and also just kind of like promoting the relaxing gameplay for mining. I still want to try to do mining in like Poshman, potentially some in wormhole space and stuff, but I'm gonna kind of like slowly temper my way into whatever I plan on doing as far as like a really crazy establishment. I mean, like Poshman mining, for instance. If I was going to go out there and do that at a serious level, that's probably going to require a couple of tunes just to kind of facilitate somebody sitting in like a porpoise for like compression, and then someone to help run it out, so we don't have to be filamenting in and out so much. Whereas high seg mining right now is going to be essentially done on just one character, which is super chill. And I enjoy that, and which is also a kind of a crazy metric too, is like the Mackinaw that I've been using for this series. I'm coming up on almost a year in that ship alone. Haven't lost it to ganks, fingers crossed, knock on wood, all that. And it's interesting that you can kind of like stay in a hull that long in Eve, because I think the vast majority of the consensus is that you buy a ship and you're probably only gonna get some little bit of use out of it before it gets blown up or whatever. And I think that that's kind of the hallmark too of this series too, is it shows that you can actually do high sec mining for, you know, an extended amount of time and not necessarily have to replace ships all the time. And with that being said too, is like the endurance that we actually used for the winter event, I've had that ship for probably like 6 months or so, and that was, you know, been like the go-to ship for doing high sec rare orders and things like that, which I'll probably end up doing a lot of that this year as well. A lot of the focus last year for Eve content was kind of, you know, branching out from doing like you know, null sec stuff, doing Poshman. We were kind of all over the place. I do feel like I want to kind of like focus down a little bit more and specialize a little bit more, and instead of like spreading myself too thin across different areas of space, just kind of focus on what I enjoy the most, which is staying away from drama, staying away from the political nonsense that's going on all over the place. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, you shouldn't be in high sec, you know, it's, you know, horrible like income and this or that, but I don't care about income. My goal to hit a trillion net worth as a solo player is still very much on track. A lot of my income actually comes from not market manipulation, but like market orders, market trading, stuff like that. So even during my hiatus, I've still managed to, you know, clear, you know, 25, 50 bill in net profits without even really actually playing during that downtime. So I'm not at all concerned about income with, you know, high sec mining versus mining pretty much anywhere else. Just, it's not on my radar. It's not something I care about. What I care about is actually, you know, relaxing, enjoyable gameplay, because my income is not going to necessarily stop just because I'm only doing like high sec stuff. And we'll probably focus on like some high sec PI, some high sec ratting, because I think that's like an entry point for a lot of people too. A lot of my channel has been kind of dedicated to newer or returning players with the guides and the things that I've done up to this point. And I think that a lot of people who are starting to play and they want to be successful, but they also don't want to be inside like a null set corporation. They want to deal with drama. They don't want to deal with micromanagement. They're probably going to spend a lot more time than they normally would in places like high sec. And so I think showcasing the different things you can do to and also be successful is probably going to be the main focus for the Eve content I hope to produce in 2024. So today I kind of dusted off the Mackinaw, taking it out here, doing some Feldspar mining, you know, same thing that, you know, I usually do. It's like, you know, why break it? Is, you know, why fix it? It's not broke, right? It's like, it's kind of like the whole goal for me. I don't know if we're going to be offloading this Feldspar to market. I think that a good thing to do would be like just to mine a bunch of it and then, you know, showcase different ways to actually sell it. That doesn't necessarily mean taking it to JITA. I talked a little bit about this in other videos about alternative ways to offload, or if you're not into manufacturing and stuff like that. And honestly, you could do manufacturing in high sec. It's fine. Like, you know, obviously you're not going to be as efficient as running like an engineering complex in like null or whatever, but it's like all those bonuses that you get from doing manufacturing out there in like null sec come with a lot more just come with a lot more drama. I mean, like, it's like anything else. The more people that you have to deal with, the more complicated things get and everything. And a lot of people ask me, like, you know, you don't have to play solo. So it's like, why do you play solo? And I think the biggest reason is that I have had a lot less problems with potentially losing ships since I've been solo, because I think and I think I've talked about this in other videos before too, where there is kind of a gameplay loop that a lot of higher up corporations and alliances do, where they will use the information that they have in a corporation or alliance, and they'll take alts that are not part of that corporation or alliance out and hunt their own members, right? I dealt with a lot of this in drone lands, where it was like, you know, before I was in a corporation in nullsec, I never had any issues with seemingly people just warping directly to the system I'm in, directly to the area I am in system, and trying to tackle, gank, and all of that. But once I got involved in, like, you know, alliances and corporations in nullsec, it's like that just was a common thing. And then once I decided to go solo, once I decided to go into my own corporation, once I decided not to do organized fleets, mining, or roaming, whatever the case may be, once I decided to, you know, kind of play at my own schedule, those things just disappeared. Obviously, that's all like tinfoil hat kind of stuff, right? You know, conspiracy theories, but it's not beyond the realm of possibility that that stuff does happen in EVE, you know. And that would be like simply like you could be out there in nullsec on a mining op where you have a bunch of corpies out there and you're all mining, and then one of those people that are out there mining with you has an alt online who is feeding information either to another corporation he's in, or he's just in that corporation with an alt as well, and he knows exactly where you are because you're mining with his main or with the character that's in that corporation with you. And so they're like, hey, these guys are mining, so, you know, let's go and, you know, get us some kill mails and stuff. And it's just, that stuff happens. That's why I stay solo. Less information you give, the less that stuff happens, and that's been proven over the course of, you know, several years. You know, I don't have, even in high sec before, when I was in high sec in a corporation, it was just, I had so many more issues with people just, you know, knowing what I was doing when I was doing it and stuff like that. So that'll never change. I don't think I'll ever jump fully back into group play with others, because I just don't like being inconvenienced. I just don't like being bothered. I don't like, you know, people using it's like, it goes beyond, like, you know, because you can still get like blacklisted and stuff like that for AWOXing if you're running alts that are outside of corporation alliance and people find out about it. But that's kind of the thing, right? If they don't find out about it, then it just kind of continues happening. And that actually happened most recently with my group of friends. Actually had that happen most recently to them. They had a disgruntled person that they had known for years who was using alts to basically harass them. Unfortunately, he was not very good about hiding. He used the same like naming convention for his alts. He wasn't really good about, you know, covering his employment history on those alts, and so it was very, very easy for them to identify who was actually griefing them. But it's just like that. It's like that stuff happens. So my plan is to 100% kind of stay away from all that drama the best that I can. So while we're mining out here, we're going to try to like answer some questions that I've gotten on the channel in terms of kind of EVE and all that stuff. I think one of the more recent questions was like, am I taking a break from EVE? And I was over the holiday for good reasons. There was a really good patch for Star Citizen that came out that I've really been enjoying, and the goal has always been to kind of like to like play other space games and not necessarily, you know, kind of restrict myself to just one. I've also more recently purchased Elite Dangerous with its DLC on sale over the course of the holiday. Been playing a little of that, not too much. I find it kind of annoying. I found a lot of aspects about Elite Dangerous kind of annoying. I think a lot of that has to do because I have a lot of experience in a game like Star Citizen, or I have experience in a game like No Man's Sky or EVE. So whenever I go to a new space game, my perspective ends up getting really kind of, whenever I look and judge a space game, I end up kind of comparing it to what I like about, you know, everything else that I've been playing. But I don't know if I'm going to end up doing a lot of content for Elite Dangerous. We'll have to see. I don't know. But let's go ahead and jump into some questions and start answering some stuff that you guys have been curious about. All right, the first question, it came from the Power Variance PI video, talking about, is my spreadsheets available? Do I plan on selling them? Not really. I mean, really, the purpose of all of the spreadsheets is to kind of illustrate the point in the videos. I think eventually I might end up like putting or converting a lot of the spreadsheets into actual an actual calculator on like a website or something like that, because sharing the spreadsheets, I can share the sheet just fine, right? If I wanted to restrict edits and stuff like that, that's possible too. But for the most part, it's a little difficult just to kind of share stuff out, and then have, you know, if I want to update that stuff, then I have to kind of inform everybody that it gets updated, and they have to download a new version and things like that. I've done a lot of looking into sharing the spreadsheets that I've done. My old mining, before Appraisal went down, my old mining tracker, my market tracker that used Appraisal, I did share that out to members, and it was a little tedious, just like, you know, updating that and making sure everybody had the most recent version. So the one reason I have not, you know, tried to put out other spreadsheets to like members and stuff like that is just because I think there's a better way to kind of get that to the community, whether that's in the form of like an Android phone app, or probably the best way is just having a website that has like all of those spreadsheets in the form of calculators for the most part, which is something I'm still looking into, but haven't actively been kind of, you know, working on. In the future, maybe will be something we can do. All right, the next question is on the actual planetary industry basic and setup guide, which is actually, I want to say, the biggest video that we did last year. The question was, what is the cycle time of advanced factories? Is it 24 hours or is it 1 hour? Advanced factories are going to be 1 hour. They're literally double what the basic factories are, so they will pull input every hour on those, just like your basic factories will pull every 30 minutes. Now, if there was some confusion on that video, 24 hours is the 24-hour cycle, is not the actual advanced factories. That's the extractor cycle that I was doing in that video, and then the sub-cycle for that would be 15 minutes, which means that every 15 minutes the extractor is going to dump P0 into your storage or into your basic factories. The higher you go on the main cycle, that sub-cycle will increase exponentially. All right, let's see if we can find another question here. The other question is kind of in terms of, it came from the drone mining, solo drone mining for the Orca. And the question was, is it better to fit drone rigs, shield rigs, or hull rigs? Do the drone rigs even do that much for money? I think if you're doing Orca drone mining, then you probably do want the drone rigs. That will increase how much you're getting, how much yield you're getting, and especially if you're staying out for a long amount of time, you're going to see those profits a lot more the longer you stay out. If you're only planning on, like, you know, probably drone mining for like an hour or so, it might be better to go shield rigs, just to add a little bit more of a buffer, or add more resistances in case, you know, someone tries to gank you or whatever the case may be. But pretty much all my Orca drone mining builds will have the drone rigs on them. In order to make a lot of the fits that I present for drone mining on the Orca work with those drone rigs, you absolutely need drone rigging 5, and that brings down the CPU requirement for those rigs. That allows you to fit a lot of the tank that I end up putting on those fits themselves. The next question is from the What Should You Mine video, which that video was covering my mining market tracker that used Appraisal. And the question was like, how was it made? Can I shed some light on how it was made, and how someone would start like kind of DIYing that themselves. Now, that used Appraisal before Appraisal went down. So essentially what it was doing, it was pulling sell value, it was pulling buy value, and things like that for all those different items. And then we were just using normal math and formulas in the spreadsheet to calculate market values or percentages, margins, things like that. I have had some thoughts on, like, redoing a spreadsheet like that, maybe for Janus or maybe Eve Marketer and stuff like that. but I think that there is anything of that scale can get really laggy, or can get really limited, because CCP did a lot of changes at the end of last year in terms of ESI, how often or how many requests can be done in a certain amount of time. So that's really kind of limited a lot of third-party apps, you know, kind of like eAppraisal or like Janus and stuff like that. If you wanted to run a really crazy market spreadsheet, they're not going to allow you to do the amount of ESI calls that you would want to have that thing running fluidly. So I kind of stepped away from like doing marketing trackers once they kind of like really started restricting the ESI calls and stuff like that for that stuff. And that's one big reason why eAppraisal went down, was because CCP actually banned their IP, because they were not restricting requests like a lot of other sites were. So instead of actually trying to resolve the issue with CCP, the owner controller of eAppraisal decided just to shutter the whole project and things like that. The next question came from the Orca and 4 Hulks on the Solo Mining episode 26, and the question was, how do I have all of that on one screen? I use a Eve client switcher, which is a simple piece of software that just takes a hotkey. You basically hit a hotkey and it'll just swap client windows. I just put all the clients in the same window because I like having them all like at full FPS and full resolution. So I usually set mine to the tilde key for that. I think I actually had done a video going over the Eve client switcher, which has the software link in that description. I don't remember the name of that video, but you can probably like look on the channel and find it. But essentially, when I'm doing any sort of like fleet mining like that, I'm just cycling through all of those clients with one hotkey and controlling all of that that way. Another question, just really briefly, it was on the Mamba fit for the Havoc Insurgencies, and they asked why my Mamba was worth 5 mil. A lot of that has to do with the value of that hull at the time of recording. It was very, very expensive. It's come down quite a bit in cost since then. The next question is actually kind of related to the other question. It came from the Fleet Mining Guide, which is also asking how I control multiple Hulks, and do you need multiple accounts? You 100% need multiple accounts, because all those Hulks need to be Omega, and the only way you can have multiple accounts that are logged in at the same time is that they're all Omega, and using the same Eve client switcher to control all those guys. Now, the higher you go, I think in that video I had like 7 or so Hulks following the Orca. Depending on your computer hardware, you're going to have to bring down that so you don't have like too much of a crazy issue there. I run at 4K now for Eve, so I'm pretty much, until I upgrade my graphics card, I'm pretty much stuck at 3 accounts at full resolution 4K. A lot of that has to do with I only have like 8 gigs of VRAM on the 3060 Ti I'm using, so I plan on actually upgrading probably to the 4080 Super when it does actually come out, and if I can actually get my hands on one, which should allow me to go back up to running like 6 or more full 4K clients at a time. So that's kind of something I'm planning. I'm planning on taking the channel full into 4K here in the next few months or so, and I don't really want to come down from 4K with what I've got right now. I know I've done like 1440p and stuff like that, but I haven't been able to do a lot of crazy Eve fleet mining videos because I don't really want to come all the way down to 1080p just to facilitate an 8 or a 10 account kind of mining op. And then let's see what else we got here. This other question came from Manufacturing at a Loss, how to avoid and make ISK video. It was asking why not just why not just buy people selling at lower and flip their stuff to a higher profit. You can do that. It's kind of monotonous to do that, but you can 100% just go in there and just hunt for these people selling this stuff to buy orders or selling it to really low sell orders, and then you could just wait and flip that as well. it requires capital. Obviously, you're going to be floating a lot of ISK and hope to offload that stuff, but it's definitely something that is possible to do. And on certain items, it's how a lot of people make a lot of money very, very easily. All right, the next question comes from the solo nullsec episode 7. It asks, do I run a corp? You'd have a lot of loyal pilots, and what do I use to plan builds? I do run a corp. I run a corp that has basically nobody but myself in it, and I had thought about it in the past, actually running a corp with channel viewers and stuff like that. But I think that going back to what I said earlier in this episode, staying away from drama, staying away from the potential of just having people kind of just mess with my kind of routine and just kind of stay away from the politics and stuff. Like I'm very happy with just kind of operating solo. I think that if I do a corporation at any point for the channel, it will not have any of my normal characters in it that I use for my normal play. I might have the CEO of that corporation be an alt where I can talk in game with channel members and things like that, but I will most likely keep my normal routine pretty private, because there's a lot of information that can be seen just being in the same corporation with somebody, like where different corporation members are in terms of systems, and that's just something that I would rather keep as private as possible. The next question comes from the Solo Explore Fit video. It says, why do you say it's an Alpha Explorer Fit when you have non-alpha friendly modules on the ship? The best you can do, a lot of people believe that like Tech 2 modules are strictly Omega. That's like a weird kind of misconception in the game. Go to the info view on any of those items. Make sure if it shows like an Omega symbol on them, then they're restricted to Omega. But there is a very good amount of Tech 2 items that are available as alphas. And what I find interesting about comments like this on my alpha fit videos is I'm literally on the video, I'm sitting on the video, in the ship that I'm presenting the fit for on an alpha tune, running the ship as an alpha on an alpha tune, right? So there's no reason why, if you just watch the video, there's no reason to think that what you see on the fit is Omega only. Look at what's happening in the video. I'm literally in the ship, I'm operating the ship as an alpha. So I that's one of my biggest pet peeves, well, that misconception of like Tech 2 modules being strictly Omega. They're not. I have an amazing Mercurial alpha fit that can just absolutely destroy so much, and it has Tech 2 on it. A lot of my alpha fits have Tech 2 on it, and they're usable as alphas. So always check that info panel. Make sure you're not just assuming or basing what you know or what you think you know based on what other people have told you and things like that. The next question is from the Making Everything PI video. They're asking, is it possible to do P4 on just one character? Yes, you're going to be limited on the amount of volume you can output, and chances are you're not going to be able to do like extraction. You'd have to probably acquire P1 from local contracts or market. It is possible. A lot is possible with PI. If you really want to go for like ISK and scale and stuff like that, you need to break it down as much as you can across multiple tunes. But it is possible. It just really depends. And I know a lot of people who want to make like their own like tractor units and stuff like that. Probably want to like generate some of that P4 themselves to save themselves a lot of trouble. But it just comes down to the less characters you use for a higher end product, probably more of the items going in you're going to have to acquire from contracts and other things like that. The next question comes from the Rorqual and Hulk's solo mining episode 20. And it's asking, how do I match velocity to the Rourke? Am I doing it manual? Yes. That lead Hulk that lead miner will essentially just set its speed manually, because I can see what the max speed of the Hulk or the Rourke is. And so I just go down there to the HUD and just kind of click on that little semicircle wheel until I get close to what the Rorqual's meters per second is, and that's how I kind of match it. I wish there was an easier way to do it. Like I wish you could like right click and then put in the actual speed, but it's what we got, so that's how I do it manually. And then the next question is from the High Sec Drone Mining, which is solo episode 21. And it asks how long would it take to mine enough for Omega in this ship. I'm assuming I'm using a porpoise in that video based on the thumbnail. It would take a while. Trying to get Omega with any drone mining now is going to be next to impossible. Not impossible. I won't say impossible. It's not. It would just take a long time. Just doing an like if you watch the beginning of this series, it took like 40-ish days or whatever, like 47 days or whatever for the Alpha Venture just to get to Omega. So I would say cut that in halves or cut that into fourths, and you're probably looking at what drone mining would actually do. It would take a long time for that, for sure. All right, next question comes from the Solo Ship ROI video, and they're asking Porpoise plus Hulk, would that be better than Porpoise plus Mackinaw? And usually, if you're only having one alt, I would still suggest Mackinaw because the volume of that mining hole just makes it super chill. You're going to compress everything inside the Mackinaw or the Hulk regardless. But the reason why the 44K M3 cubic meters is better than what the Hulk is because if you are trying to like just chill out mine, it takes very little time for the Hulk to fill up its ore hold with non-compressed ore. Which if you it fills up, it's going to turn off lasers. So if you don't want that to happen, if you want just like never to drop a laser, it's easier just to run a Mackinaw. And especially as you go on, if you're out for like several hours, every time you compress ore, you're going to be losing a little bit of that mining hold to what that compressed ore is filling up. So that window of being able to catch that compress is going to be higher and higher, or it's going to be lower and lower, really. So if you're really on top of it and you're really compressing like pretty much every 30 seconds or so, then yeah, use a Hulk. But even if you are actively compressing every time you have ore in that hold on the Hulk, the more compressed ore you fill into that hold, that window is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller for what you got to do. So I just forego all that. I use the Mackinaw, fill that thing all the way up. And if you can go out with just a porpoise and a Mackinaw and come back with a completely full Mackinaw of compressed ore, that is a good op and everything. The next question comes from the Gas Mining Solo Mining episode 13, talking about they want to get into they're coming back to you and they want to get into mining and relaxing playstyle, but they don't want to multi-box. Is it still viable? Absolutely. Gas mining, any type of mining, you can do solo. It's completely viable. If you're doing gas mining, take a venture out to wormhole space, low sec space, whatever. All that stuff just scales up if you add more characters to it and everything. So the last question I'm going to answer, which I've seen a lot of people kind of making an assumption. So this is like going to answer like multiple questions I've seen on the channel. That people are saying like, oh well, it's not really solo because you have multiple accounts doing the work of like all these different people. In my definition of solo is heartbeat. I'm one person controlling multiple accounts. I count that as solo. It also goes and to answer the question of like, oh, you're in a nullsec corp or you're in a nullsec alliance, how is that solo? Well, because I'm out there doing stuff by myself. The alliance is not coming out there and boosting my alts. The alliance is not coming out there and aiding my day-to-day activities at all. Like they literally just exist to allow me to dock. Obviously, like there's some gray area there. Like if you were truly solo and you weren't really reliant on anybody, then yeah, you wouldn't have docking rights. But in terms of how I define solo, it's me doing mining, ratting, manufacturing all by myself without anybody else helping out in terms of providing items for input or anything like that. So yeah, I do still consider if I'm running like a porpoise and 3 Mackinaws by myself, I do still consider that solo because I am not 4 different heartbeats that can do different things all at once. It's all reliant on me solo by myself doing all of that. So that's kind of how I define that. But that's gonna be it for this episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you had your question answered, cool. If you have any more questions, obviously just like leave those questions on the channel and we'll get to them in these episodes. Hopefully we can do a lot more of these and we'll do a lot of mining here in 2024. Thank you for watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.